Worse than Liz Truss and worse than Greece. Are the rumours of the UK needing an IMF bailout about to come true? Well, it seems like they might be, because we have just hit a 27-year high with the UK's borrowing costs. The markets are going completely crazy because they have no faith whatsoever that Rachel Reeves will be able to balance the books with her autumn budget. And I want to show you what Zia Yusuf had to say about this, because Zia Yusuf, unlike Rachel Reeves, who is our Chancellor, actually understands markets because he used to work at Goldman Sachs. Let's take a listen.
If you look at our borrowing costs and gilt yields, they're way above where it was even at the peak of the Truss crisis. And it just keeps inching upwards and inching upwards. We now have higher borrowing costs than America, and we have higher borrowing costs than Greece. Let me say that again. The United Kingdom now pays more to borrow money than Greece. The cost of the interest payments alone annually are almost bigger than our defence and our schools budget combined, Camilla. So I think what's going to happen now is, there's a big question whether the IMF could even afford to bail the United Kingdom out. But the people who are now using the words IMF bailout and the UK in the same sentence are not partisan hacks, right? These are well-respected economists. And I think what they're really worried about, is number one, a total inability for this Prime Minister to find any savings in the budget at all. Couldn't even save 1.2% of the total welfare budget. Couldn't get that past his walloping majority of MPs. And I'll give you another signal of what's in store and where I think things can get exponential very quickly, which is what happens in markets. It's what brings companies down, and it can bring governments down. Do you remember when Rachel Reeves started crying on the front bench?
Yes.
Now, whatever you think about that, there was a massive gap down in British gilts. And the reason there was a gap down is because they perceived there was now a real risk that Reeves would go. And what markets see with Reeves, markets don't care whether British people's quality of life becomes appalling, whether kids don't have enough money. They don't care. What they care about is that Britain pays its bills. And Rachel Reeves has been very clear. She will stick to, quote unquote, the fiscal rules. So what that was is a signal of what markets, how they will react to Rachel Reeves' successor, which sadly will not be, a very smart, practical person who understands markets. It will be an Ed Miliband or one of the lunatics inside this clown car.
God help us if that happens.
And once that starts to happen and our bond yields start going out to 6, 7, 8, 9%, I think at that point, coupled with the fact that sadly, Camilla, this country feels like a powder keg at the moment. And I say that with no joy whatsoever. I'm extremely concerned, as is everyone at Reform, about the fact that British people are sick and tired of not being listened to. You combine those things, and so I'd say it's still not probable that there will be an early general election, but I think it is much more likely than it was even 3 or 4 months ago.
So there you go, Zia Yusuf on the Daily Tea podcast with Camilla Tomney there, saying that an early general election is much more likely than it was a few months ago, because if the market completely crashes out of control, it's looking like it's sort of on track to go that way at the moment, they may well have to call a general election. It would be turkeys voting for Christmas, but there may come a point where they have no choice. I mean, we'll see what happens come the autumn budget, but I think it's going to be a car crash, and I think a heck of a lot of wealth creators, the ones that are still left here, are going to be leaving the country and going to places like Dubai, and then the tax receipts will go down as those people leave the country, and the vicious circle will go on and on and on. So this morning, the 30-year gilt yield rose to 5.672% in early trading over the previous 27-year high set in April. Really good setting records, this Labour government, not good ones. Analysts note this risks removing any potential fiscal headroom needed by the Chancellor in her upcoming statement, which is expected to be announced to Parliament in late October, early November. I mean, this is going to be a nightmare for Rachel Reeves, because she keeps on desperately trying to figure out how she can make a little bit more money when the borrowing costs go up and her headroom disappears. And then as soon as she thinks she's figured out how to do it, we then hear that the black hole has gotten bigger because the gilt yields have gone up again, and then there's more and more money for her to find, and she just can't figure out where on earth to find it. And I think that this guy, Jim Reed, a Deutsche Bank economist, really sums up this vicious circle that we're in. He says, even in orderly markets, we're seeing a slow-moving vicious circle. Rising debt concerns push yields higher, worsening debt dynamics, which in turn pushes yields higher again. Exactly. So the concerns about rising debt, and then consequently the gilt yields go up, and Rachel Reeves needs to find more money. Then Rachel Reeves starts hiking taxes to try and afford those rising debt costs. That then means that the economy shrinks, because you can't tax your way to growth, can you? The growth forecasts go down, the tax receipt forecasts go down, and then we see the same situation again. The markets freak out, the borrowing costs go up even more, we tax even more, and there's just no way we can grow the economy and become a wealthier, more prosperous society this way. And last of all, before I finish this video, I just want to show you this quote from Kathleen Brooks. She's a research director at the broker XTB. She said that August was dreadful for UK bonds, and highlighted the concerns many investors have ahead of Rachel Reeves' fiscal statement. She says the summer's drip feed of potential tax rises, we've been hearing a lot about those, has not gone over well with voters, and Labour has been hemorrhaging support to reform in recent weeks. Essentially, voters don't want tax rises, while Labour backbenchers don't want spending cuts, but something will have to give. Yeah, the defining moment that really showed that it's going to be near impossible, as Zia Yusuf alluded to there, near impossible for this government to make any cuts anywhere to balance the books, was that welfare bill, when you had a monumental, huge backbench rebellion over a bill that was just going to shave off a very small 5 billion off the welfare bill that's a welfare bill that's expected to rise to 100 billion over the next few years, right? They couldn't even shave 5 billion quid off that. So where on earth are they going to manage to save any money? Even though they've got a big majority, they can't seem to get anything through that will save some cash. It's a very, very scary situation, folks. We'll see what happens come the autumn budget. I'm Chloe Dobbs. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below. See you next time.